size is bigger. So, like, drowning in it.
And someone stole it?
Yes.
In high school.
I'd kill him.
Right? You
Yeah.
understand. You understand why I think about this sweater
I
regularly.
I understand.
Well, considering that her mom is batshit crazy, I hope it doesn't happen.
I mean, I don't think she's got contact with her mom anymore. I'm pretty sure she got out.
Good for her. She
Yeah.
deserves.
Yeah, deserved a lot better than that.
Really. Okay, I have all of my beverages now.
I have a beverage heating. I do have my non-beverage though, because water is not a beverage.
Water's not a beverage. For those listening at home, a beverage is anything that's not water, pretty much.
Correct.
Any drinkable item. Any
Yes,
drinkable
any
item.
drink that is not water.
No, we are water, so. Full. I've got sparkling water. I've got flat water. I've got tea. Sparkling water. I've got flat water. I've got tea. Hey, I haven't written any AU in a while because I've been consumed by this book series, and I'm almost done. But yeah, a couple more days and I'll probably get back to it. I've just been consumed. It's so
I'm so
good.
proud of you.
It's so good. I was passionately telling Ben about how great it was last night.
I You need to recommend the book to me. And I am so sad I'm behind on reading. I've been on like knitting only mode. Like I'm not allowed to do shit other than knit. And I've made great progress, but I miss my other hobbies.
Well, Jenny, if you're not, I'm sending you the first book in my package. And then Bronwyn, you'll read it after us.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
No pressure to like it. I think it's great, obviously. Very rough.
Hey. Aha. Now the folks at home can see us. Hello, Sid Vicious.
Oh my god.
Hi, Sydney.
Watching live.
I said,
Um, now that we can all be seen, gonna be a fun one. All right.
Mr. Grinch. It's autofill. I'm sorry.
I love you.
I love you too.
Okay, so we left off still in downtime. Uh, so hello, silly waffles. So I'm gonna stop saying hello to people now because we're actually starting. Yeah, we're gonna focus up now. All right. So uh, for those at home, however, uh, things happening right now are not exactly timeline restricted. Uh, the things that happened all of last session, basically, and at least for the beginning of this session, uh, who knows how long of this session it will all be kind of wibbly wobbly, timey wimey things happening out of order and such over about a period of a month. Um, that being said, uh, we did end last session on a little bit of a cliffhanger with Orin maybe finding a antidote for the death, as well as having nightmares. Um, uh, he at least found a localized antidote, if not a full-on cure for the whole body. Um, what else? What else happened? Lots of other things happened.
Urka is getting her kisses in, Lord Commander Ryan.
Zerka is getting her kisses in. Lord Commander Ryan trying to keep it on the down low, but it was Zerka who
Her
got seen.
boss, by the
So
way, her boss.
one would assume that at the very least, Zerka wanted that interaction at least seeable, maybe not seen by the exact people that saw it. You don't know.
Oh,
Um,
what do your elf eyes see?
I know something you don't.
um, other than that, plenty of other things happened, but yeah. So let's hop into it. So, it is as of where we were with Orin. It was the wee hours of the morning. Henry and Orin were both still awake, working. Orin thinks he has a solution to the localizedness of his antidote. Um, what are we doing?
I'm assuming that Orin and I are sleeping in and then waking up late in the day.
Well, Orin was gonna keep working to
Oh, I
finish
have in
sleep.
my notes that we went to sleep.
Oh, well then,
I heard
if
him chamomile tea. He said yes, and then we both went
no,
to sleep.
you know what? You are correct. I apologize. That is correct. Yeah. So he happy with the progress he made in that night. Gonna get some rest so he can have a fresh mind to work on the rest. That being said, go ahead and give me a perception check, Henry.
Not good. It's not good, is what it is. 5.
You sleep soundly. Um,
Okay.
okay. So, other things. Do Ren or Call have anything they want to do off by themselves? Anything that y'all thought of extra, maybe, or from last time?
Not at the moment. At some point, Ren does want to talk with Call, maybe, and Zerka. But that doesn't have to be immediate.
All
I think.
right.
Call does want to go ahead and move and like show Orin the translation of their book because it had like equations and stuff in there that are kind of above Call's comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
So Call does want to go ahead and show Orin those because
Okay. Let me double check something. Okay. All right. So, all right. Well, we can say that let's say that Call decides to do that on the day after this event that happened at night between Henry and Call. Um, uh, what time of day do you think Call would head over?
um, we have established that Call is a rat bastard morning person, so
Mm-hmm.
Call's probably going over there before 10 a.m. Probably not much before 10 a.m. because at this point they figured out that Henry sleeps in, but probably before 10
Uh,
a.m.
all right. So
Paul's only flaw, being a morning person.
It's Call's fatal flaw at this point. Call's gonna get murdered not by a bad guy, but by a friend who's like, "Don't wake me the fuck up."
Well, we already have Henry's perception check for being asleep for this time. So I guess. Sorry. Um, so you knock on the door at sometime slightly before 10 a.m.
Yeah, 9:40ish.
Um, what, what would I even call this? It would probably be. You can. There, there are mechanics or not be damned, but following mechanics, you can just use an action to wake someone from sleep. So, Oren wakes Henry up because Oren gets woken up by your knock, and he shakes Henry awake because he ain't about to answer the door.
As you should not.
Henry opens one eye, doesn't say anything, is very grumpy. Is Patch, looks over at Patch's bunk. Is Patch there?
No, Patch would be gone by
now. Henry still doesn't say anything, but nods and gets up and opens the door to Call. Still with one eye open.
Still with only one eye open. You see possibly the frizziest Henry you've ever seen. Because like not only is this early morning Henry, but this is like early morning Henry without having a full night's sleep beforehand. So like imagine just like from about here up is just kind of a poof of hair. Just in a large circle all around his head. Not like an afro, but just like kind of straight out and twisted.
I've seen my hair in the morning. I know what you're talking
about. And there is a somewhat scared-looking Orin in the corner.
Phenomenal. Carl has spent a month with Henry in the woods, and being the person who did the graveyard shift, so I think at this point Carl's pretty familiar with early morning Henry. So Carl is going to just kind of nod gently and kind of gesture like, "You can go back to sleep," and doesn't say a word. Does not need Henry to learn word at this hour of the morning. And it's just gonna like slide in and like take a seat on Patch's bed, and like gesture to Orin to like come whisper in the other side of the room.
Henry pats Call on the shoulder appreciatively and then goes back to bed.
Henry pats Call on the shoulder.
Yeah, Henry pats Call on the shoulder.
Call's not even that tall.
But Henry's 5 foot.
Henry's 5 foot.
No, Call's only 5'7".
So, man, I'm going to die from laughing today. I already know that. So, Orin pretty quickly explains to you the advancements they made last night and why Henry is still so very, very sleepy. Orin as well has some bags under his eyes, which, you know, I forget if I made him 15 or 16s, but
he's 17.
He is 16. I don't know why
you said 17 originally, but I will correct my notes.
Okay. So Carl is, first of all, very enthusiastic about this information, and is very hopeful, and is going to say, well, in that case, I'm not sure this will even be like, that's fantastic. That's great to know. I also have a question because Carl has so many questions. I believe we've already informed Orin about Call's book. We decided to do that in an earlier session. So Call is going to bring out their notes, and they're going to say like, "Hey, you know, finally got this thing translated. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to fully get it decoded because there's a lot of technical jargon in here that is beyond my comprehension. Um, would you be willing to just give this a look through and see what you can do? I understand if you're, you know, in revelation from last night takes precedence.
You definitely have shown him the book before because he gave y'all a more in-depth kind of telling of what the canisters were and that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, just a small thing to point out. Uh, your translation of the book is like about a fifth of the length of your actual book. Because when speaking in Thieves' Cant and also when writing in Thieves' Cant, it takes about 4 times as long. And this was also like a little bit weird Thieves' Cant, so it was even expanded a little bit more. Um, but yeah, when speaking Thieves' Cant, it takes 4 times as long to convey the same message. Um, so, um, it doesn't take Orin a very long time to read through it, because as we have established, Orin reads very, very quickly. Um, uh, so he goes through it, and kind of his face just like gets a little bit more concerned every time he turns a page. Um, and then when he is done, he looks kind of visibly shaken and immediately hands it back to you and says, "A lot of this is really scary. Um, like the beginning of it is more of just a general understanding of the substance as it is called in the book. Um, but as it goes on, it's not exactly the method I used, but there's almost exactly a way to stabilize the substance detailed in these notes or in this book, and also like measurements and such for very large amounts of it. Um, uh, and like it kind of gets like even with your notes, I know you translated it. I don't think that this was an issue with your translating, but the just like the way this narrator starts talking starts sounding a little crazy. He sounds homicidal and manic and murderous. Uh, and then towards the end, it fully goes into the specifications of how to make a massive release device for this substance in a gaseous form that could be released over a city-sized area, and anyone in that area would be infected with it almost instantaneously. As well as this specific spell, um, which is pretty specific to an artificer to ignite this gas and basically turn it into a city-sized fireball. Um, it also details that it theorizes that anyone killed by means other than the substance while infected with it, it's kind of layer upon layer of weirdness. And again, this is where it's sounding the most crazy. So I don't even know if it's true, but it kind of theorizes that if someone were infected with this substance in the state that is described, and then killed by a different mean, it might banish their soul to Shadowfell. Because it goes into explanation of fire acting on the substance as the spell banishment, which the substance, of course, coming from Shadowfell would send acting as banishment, sends it from this plane back to Shadowfell. So this is terrifying. I would appreciate it if maybe you destroyed these. He is like kind of visibly shaken and goes and picks up his glass of tea that has been sitting out for hours and is very, very cold and very, very nasty, and just drinks the whole thing anyway. Um, and then like nervously is looking around, and then without saying anything starts trying to take off one of your shoes.
Call's gonna go ahead and let them do that.
Okay, so he takes off your shoe and brings out a little patch of leather and starts repairing a small bit on your shoe that you didn't even know had been broken. And he seems entirely engrossed in that work. And even though it's a pretty small repair, like he spends extra time getting it absolutely perfect. And when he returns your shoe to you and you put it on, it's more comfortable than it has ever been.
Wonderful. Call will thank him. Is there is a fireplace in Henry's room, right? Is there a fireplace in Henry's room?
No, there is not.
None? Okay.
The barracks of the Hall of Light are partially subterranean, like only the upper foot is not underground. So there's a lot of geothermal stuff going on there, so no real need for a fireplace.
Okay. The Hall of Light does not have a lot of natural light.
It does in like the main floors. There's all of like the stained glass windows, so there is a lot of multicolored, very beautiful light in the main like the main floor. But the barracks is no, they all have purely artificial light.
Gotcha. Okay, well, Call is going to stuff these notes very deep into their bag. I guess try to find a fireplace with which to get rid of their notes. And gently will quietly leave without waking Henry.
As you're like kind of preparing to go, Orin actually asks you to stay and says, will you just stay here so I can have an extra set of hands? I want to work on my fix for the localization of the antidote that I have made.
Absolutely.
So he's not gonna have you actually like do any alchemy. He literally just wants an extra pair of hands to hold certain things. So just make a raw dexterity check for me. So just d20 plus your dexterity modifier.
13.
All right. So you don't drop anything he hands you.
Good.
And then he's gonna roll this with advantage. Good thing he did. One of those was a 5. But so he works on it for a couple hours, and I'll say towards the end of it, I think that Henry would probably naturally wake up. So like we're getting close to 1 p.m. ish. So Henry is probably all of you are probably getting hungry. But
Henry would have woken up by that point. He probably would have woken up and been like braided and awake by 11:30. So maybe he offers to go get food.
Y'all were awake until like 4 a.m. the night before, maybe a little later.
Okay, whatever you think.
Whatever I am saying that you are awake for the end of this at least. And so he as from last night, all of his little vials of the small samples of the one vial of the death that y'all had are off to the side. And when he finishes working, there is this liquid looks like it should be clear, but it is not. You cannot see through it, and it has this silvery kind of white color to it that glimmers a lot in the vial when he finishes. Um, and he holds it up. He like holds it to the light. He looks at it for a while, and then he finally says, "Okay, I think this will work." And then he looks at the two of you and says, "How do you think we should test it?"
Call doesn't have a lot of brains. So
Henry's
Call's
got
gonna be
heals.
like, well, it worked on it worked on the skin last time, didn't it?
Um, he said,
And
"So
Henry's gonna.
I did refine it a little. I believe that it is going to work better ingested, first of all. But he kind of side eyes Henry a little bit and says, I kind of was expecting that y'all wouldn't allow me to infect myself."
No, you're not gonna infect yourself. But I can cure. I can cure them if it doesn't work. So I'll just be right here on standby, ready to cure them if it doesn't work.
So y'all are going to infect Call.
Just call call volunteer.
Call offered, and we need, if something goes wrong, we need the person who can heal and the person who knows the science. So Call's the expendable party
All right.
here.
So very
Henry wouldn't allow you to do it if he didn't know that because he's already healed Sticky and like a bunch of other people.
I think
It's true.
you have healed five people of the death by now.
And worst case scenario, there's like a hall full of clerics and paladins right outside. Like, if
So
worst case scenario, somebody has greater restoration. Like, it's fine.
what does
I'm more worried about Oren's cure poisoning Call than anything else.
okay, so I'm muted. So Oren just asks Call to hold out their hand. And he grabs one of the vials with the very small amount of his stabilized version of the death. He unstoppers it. He's wearing these big leather gloves that like go up almost past his elbow, um, and is like standing his full arm length away from your hand, and turns the entire vial over on your hand so that it's like so that your hand is basically stoppering the vial. And as this black liquid touches your hand, it seeps out of the vial and into your skin. And this black spider webbing that you have seen before, that mimics your like veins, starts spreading to your fingertips very quickly, and then continues up your forearm. He takes the
I think
now.
I think Henry's holding the cure and is like immediately gives it to Call.
Oren says, "Wait. We don't want, because my previous solution was localized, and this version is not lethal without you taking a healing potion, or without it being mixed with a healing potion beforehand.
Oh, okay.
So you shouldn't be hurt other than maybe a cough. But we don't want this to just have the same problem as the last one, and just by taking the whole vial, it fixes the only portion you have, but is still localized." Which he has 2 vials of it, by the way. 2 vials of the cure. So as it spreads, it gets about to your shoulder, and then he says, "Okay, I think that I think that's far enough, and tells you to drink it.
Call is not going to waste any time on ceremony and just go ahead and chug it.
Right. It so from looking at it, you would expect it to have a very thick consistency, but it doesn't. It kind of drinks like water. And it has like a medicinal sweet taste to it. But it doesn't taste like anything that you can place. Like it doesn't have like a flavor that you know. And after a few seconds, oddly enough, starting from where where it first infected on the center of your hand, the veins start going to their normal color, and they spread in reverse, or in the same pattern at which they spread, turning black. Oren is kind of bouncing on his toes a little bit as he's watching this happening, and he's like nodding and making notes about how the reaction is going. And the black veins disappear in their entirety to where you are entirely cured. Yeah. Oren throws both his hands in the air.
Henry picks up Orin and swings him around.
Make an athletics check.
Oh, I have such a good athletics now. I have advantage and a +6 now. 25.
You kind of throw him up like a child and then catch him again.
Yes.
Things go great. Yeah.
Call is probably at some point like removing part of their shirt to just like really check and make sure everything's good. It's like, I'm glad that fucking worked.
Henry and Oren get a nice show.
Ooh. Yeah, take off that shirt. just to make sure. Let's make sure it did get to your heart. Come on, let's.
Title 9, Title 9.
Ren is not here to clutch their pearls.
Or to blush or faint.
Or to kill y'all for poisoning Call.
Yeah, I'm really glad Ren wasn't in the room. Ren would not have allowed that to happen.
No.
Red's gonna have a fucking field day when we report back to him.
Yeah.
This is what we all get up to when Ren's not around to babysit.
It was really fun watching your face, Jenny, while we were talking about it. Like, yeah, we're gonna poison Call. You were just like,
Call sitting here like, yeah, poison my arm.
and Henry's like, I can heal ya. And we're like, my cure is good. Let's do this.
So that has happened. I am going to say that this does take place. This interaction takes place towards the end, because it would require all of Call's translation and Oren working on this for a long time. So this is happening towards the end of the downtime. Now I believe there was something that Henry was really intent on doing all of last session.
Yeah, Henry asks, not at this point, like, it's just another time,
This
like,
this
earlier.
would be much earlier.
Yeah, much earlier.
Likely within the first week.
Yeah. Henry asks Call if they can knit together. And,
It's
is
not
that
what
you're
I'm talking about.
Okay, well, this is more important. Henry asks Call if they can knit together, and Henry shows Call the mountain of like simple, like large volume, but not very varied in stitches. But like he has tight rows, like they're even, like it's really good quality. He just like doesn't know how to do more fancy stuff, so he wants to know how to do like cabling and just different kinds of stitches, and it's like very excited to ask how to do more.
Collie's delighted to have a knitting buddy and is absolutely going to sit down and just teach Henry everything that they know. So they will have multiple knitting sessions, and it'll be great.
And Henry
It's
starts
actually
working on the
Colin gets
thing.
to work on a few things, which is nice.
Yay! Yay!
Henry starts working on the thing.
Brown and I were talking about something that Henry could make, and I think Henry is gonna start knitting a sweater, a specific sweater.
Okay. Now what I was referring to was the meeting with the hearts.
Oh yeah, the thing that I
The
started
thing that
writing
you
a
have
whole
been
AU about. So
chomping
I'm
at the
so
bit
excited
for
about.
like a month to do.
Yeah, I guess we can start doing that. Okay, so who has the wisdom powder? Whoa,
Oh,
Jenny is pixelation.
Bronwyn left and Jenny turned into a old game of Mario.
It is my power.
Oh God.
I am that powerful. I was just going to go grab my tea. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Hello, you're back.
Better?
Yes.
Yes.
You look really nice today, by the way.
Thank you. I put chemicals on my face.
Oh.
And
Oh,
yeah.
We were just
When-
chemicals.
we just played in game how you shouldn't put chemicals on you.
There are many kinds of chemicals. Food is chemicals.
Water is
Air is-
chemicals.
Air is everything is chemicals.
I am chemicals.
You are chemicals.
Even I am chemicals. But
You
that is called
are chemicals.
chemicals. And it's frowned upon in most societies.
Thank you for getting that reference.
Love it so much.
All right. So y'all did have the brunch where you talked about this. Are y'all going to have any more prep? And in what way is this happening?
What did we talk about at brunch?
Did
I'm gonna look
anyone
back.
take notes?
I took a lot of notes, but I didn't put any headings on anything, and so I just need to look through my block of text from last session.
Is it the same time that you gave them their gifts?
Okay. Oh, wait, okay, yeah. I found it. Oh yeah, because he asked what they thought about the coup in general. And they both said, let's just take some time and think about it, because one, Oren's in danger, and two, complicated with Zerka. Um, Henry has lots of feelings about everything, but it's like, I'm gonna not make a big decision like this until I have sorted all of those out and have kind of agreed upon with my friends, and we all kind of come together and use all of our brain power to like decide what we're gonna do and not just go off by himself and be like, let's plan a coup together with the hearts. Not gonna do that. So what Henry's goals for talking to the hearts are just to become friends with them, and I guess we'll see what happens if they talk to him about the coup, because I don't know yet what he would say. But yeah, he's just gonna go bring pastries by and just try to make small talk and then try to be friends over time.
So Henry is going completely by himself without letting his friends know first.
Yeah, because I don't think he
Okay.
thinks it's a big deal.
Okay. Well,
Also, nobody asked if he was going to, so he didn't offer that information.
all right. Well, first of all, give me a perception check for your trip from your room to the pastry shop to their house.
It's really exciting that I now have a +2 instead of a +1. It's just so exciting. 8.
8. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You find the bakery
Yay!
and the pastries.
Great.
And
I
you
get
are
the same assortment as last time.
all right. All right. As you approach the house, I'm assuming that you are specifically looking for Trent as usual.
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Make one more perception check for me.
9.
Um, you boy got so much stealth. um, you do not see him as you approach. However, as you get to the door before you can knock, it opens and Chels is standing there.
Good morning.
So assuming going off of Henry's normal times, I'm assuming this is roughly 9 a.m. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He woke up early to do this.
Um,
Early for him.
Chels is, as per usual, looking very put together. Her hair is up in the little kind of bun at the back that's not a bun because there's a thing, and I don't know how to explain stuff. There, there is an insert that she puts into her hair that she does her hair around that is covered by her hair. But yeah, I could I could point out a picture of it. I don't know how to describe it.
Is it similar to the thing that your sisters were showing us with the loop and the stick and the?
No,
Okay.
it is not a weird ponytail.
Okay.
It is more of a, like, the hair is done up and tied, like, I don't know how to explain
We'll look for pictures later. I want to know, but we can do it later.
it. Wearing her fairly normal. You have seen her in Storgard Green a time or two, but also you still see her in the pink and white dress that is the colors of House Heart, um, like the highborn house, not the location that you are currently standing in.
Yeah, that's Heart House, and this is House of Heart, right?
Yeah,
House Heart.
yeah. Um,
Love it.
anyway, she sees the box in your hands and make a perception check, not insight.
Oh, 17.
You notice her heavily roll her eyes, um, but you can also tell that she isn't rolling her eyes at you. Um, and but she does invite you in and says, and kind of like stands there still for a second, and then just flat out asks, "Why are you here?"
I brought pastries for breakfast.
She kind of gives you this look that she gives you a look and says, "Oh, so you just had pastries and needed something to do with them?"
Oh, sorry. I don't know. I want to be friends.
Um, one second. The problem with making characters to do a specific kind of role and then rolling for that thing is when you get the mediocre roles, you're not sure if it's great or not, because it could very well be great. It's pretty great.
Like if Call rolls for perception and gets like
Yeah,
a 3,
now,
it's like
now,
13. Yeah.
ugh, disgusting. Except it's very great because if you actually see the things that I'm throwing at you, I don't feel bad about them attacking you.
For all the kids at home, in between sessions, Call took that extra feat that Ben offered in the previous session and now has a +10 to perception.
Also, for all those at home, I don't know if this is something you have to enable yourself, but I believe that I do have an extension on the Twitch stream that if you mouse over the little, I forget what the button looks like. It might be a B in a red square. If you mouse over that, it'll bring up all 3 of the characters, and you can actually look at their character sheets in depth by clicking on
I
them.
know it works. Silly Waffles has tried it.
So you can see how absolutely fucking stupid Call's perception is now. And their passives are in the 20s. It's great. It's just awesome.
Passive in the 20s. Fantastic.
Love that for them, though.
I meant to look at the
They
rules
deserve
to
it.
see, because I'm not entirely sure if passive perception is just like is the same as constantly rolling that number of perception. Like I'm not sure if it applies to different types of checks or something. So I mean, I'm going to look into that, but so yeah, no one can hear you whispering because your gain is too low.
But what does Chell say in reply to Henry? The suspense.
You said I want to be friends. What would Chell say to that?
It's Henry. It's the very sincere. It's just
I know.
yeah, I want to be friends.
I know. What is your bonus to
Bonus to charisma is +6. That's a saving throw. I don't know what you're
persuasion is what I was asking. It's +3.
+6.
Persuasion is +6. I can't read. I looked at performance. Yeah, all right. Okay. She gives you a bit of a, well, give me an insight check, I guess.
This dice is going fucking out of here.
Threw it across the room. I heard it bang in the house.
It's under the couch. Oops.
You should.
That was
Do
too
you have
far.
your big dice?
Yes.
You should roll your big dice.
Oh, that's so much better. Mod 20.
Wait, did you roll that dice and then it got a low number and you threw it away? Or
Yeah. So I got a 7, and then you told me to roll my big dice, and with the big dice I got a mod 20.
but you got a 7 after I told you to roll insight?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got a 7.
Take the 7. Take the 7.
Yeah.
But for my next roll, I'm gonna use this 15 that I have, and I'm
Okay.
gonna do it for whatever my next
I
thing
will
is.
allow you to hold on to the 15.
I was wondering. I was like, why? Why are you asking me to roll
I
again?
didn't hear you say the number. I just saw you throw the
This
dice. So out of 7, you have absolutely no clue what the look on Chell's face means. You only know that I mean it's not like a happy look, but you have no idea what it means. And at this point, Trent comes. Yeah, Trent comes into the room. You're not actually sure when he came into the room, but he is suddenly in arm's reach of the box of pastries. He does not take them from you, but he is standing there, and he kind of made himself known to you by standing directly in front of you so you could see him.
Oh, good morning. Hello, how are you?
He, you know what? He actually gives he gives a deeper bow than you've seen him give in the past. Uh, but still not quite the normal bow of that people give that's just like, hi, I respect you as a person and you're not like my severe underling. Call's gone, or Brahma's gone.
Fine.
And you're back. We good?
We good.
Okay.
We good.
So this isn't like someone very, very, you know, what is the word I'm thinking of? Like, very into the intricacies of courtliness would be very offended by how shallow his bow is. But it is a deeper bow than you have ever seen him give. Um, um, and he's staring at the, I assume, still closed box of pastries.
Yeah. Henry says, um, should we sit down to eat these?
Um, make a perception check.
No, 15
You
plus
get your 15.
17.
Okay, yeah. So you notice he's not, but she is. You make some characters for some things, but they're not good at other things. With Chell's 3 stealth, you notice her giving Trent a very distinct look. And Jenny is Mario Party 64 now, again.
I'm just so much fun.
True. They are.
Vanellope von Schweetz over here.
Yeah, right.
Chels gives something very close to a dirty look to Trent, and then says yes, of course, and leads you into the same room that y'all have previously eaten together in. Well, you brought pastries before, and y'all.
We were just
No,
in the
y'all ate
entryway
in the
that
entryway. So brings you into a kitchen, into a dining area that you've never been to before. Uh, sorry. Um, uh, they stay pretty well. Trent, of course, stays very quiet. Chels stays pretty quiet while eating. And
Is there
like,
coffee? Is there coffee? Henry's not asking. Asher is asking.
there is a pot of coffee sitting on the table when y'all get there. It is not made while you're waiting. It's still pretty warm, but it's not like made 5 minutes ago hot. Um, and yeah, what do you do?
Trent stays very quiet while eating, and Chels does too.
Well, Trent doesn't speak. You also don't see him. But once again, like the pastry seems to disappear every second you're not looking at him. Um, yeah, you do not see him even open his mouth to eat the pastry. But it does disappear rather quickly.
I am bad at small talk, but Henry is going to make small talk because he's good at that.
Okay, just roll. Henry is very good at that, and uh, uh, Trent is not the vacuum cleaner from Teletubbies. Roll a just a base charisma check with advantage. So just on the die plus your charisma.
That's a 21.
21. That is a good start. Uh, so it goes really well. As I said, Chels doesn't talk much while she's eating, but once she finishes, she keeps up with the small talk with you, and without role playing the whole conversation, she feels more human to you at the end of the conversation. Like she just feels more like a person. Um, and shortly after y'all eat, she lets you, like, she doesn't hurry you out the door or anything. Continues just basic small talk for most of the time. Um, and yeah, like, so you sit there for a while, close to 10 a.m. Um, there's another knock at the door. Um, and you had been talking to Chels the whole time, and when you hear the knock, you look up and realize that Trent is not at the table, and you have no idea how long he has not been at the table. Um, uh, and Chels uh, Chels looks at a clock, like a grandfather clock that is against the wall, and um, seems a little surprised at the time, and stands up and says, "I'm sorry, I did have a previous engagement. Thank you for the pastries," and escorts you to the door.
Yeah. I think Henry's gonna say, "Thank you for having me."
Um,
And then
uh, uh, at the door, it is uh, just Zerka and Andy. Seymour is not there. Um, which I only mention that because the one time that you did see this group, he was there.
Henry bows to both of them. His normal Henry bow.
Um, hmm.
And he smiles very wide. He smiles real big at Andarian.
Um, and Darion returns your smile. There, he has never shown big emotion ever, but he does return your smile, very slight. Um, and Zerka looks a little surprised to see you there, but not like a, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing here?" Um, just a little, just a like minor surprise that you were there when they got here. Um, and you leave. You said you wanted to do that a lot, right?
Yeah, like he's gonna wait a day, not go back the next day. He's gonna like go like every other day or every 2 days, and
Okay.
try to. He wants to bring different breakfast foods. Um, yeah.
Okay. Um, I have not sat down and prepared the food geography of this world yet. I apologize.
Well, I was thinking like breakfast burritos at some point, breakfast tacos, like waffles at some point.
Okay. So you do that. You do that. I'm gonna reflect that. I'm gonna reflect that. So I'm not going to give you advantage on every roll, but what I'm gonna have you do is roll 4d20, and we're gonna take the top three.
Well, I only have three because I threw one across the room.
We'll roll the
Uh,
three and then re-roll your lowest and decide, and then whichever one
I,
of those is higher is keep it.
I've got a nat 20, 11, and an 8, and a 5. So 11, nat 28.
Okay. I need to just a second. I need to actually write this down somehow. Um. Um. Uh. So. for one of those, the conversation doesn't flow as well. Um, it's not some tragedy and you think that they hate you afterwards or anything like that. But the conversation just doesn't really flow as well. Um, she seems a little distracted. You kind of think that it might have been an inopportune day to have visited. Um, she seems to have a lot on her mind. Let me get to.
I think, can that be the one like right out, like the next time that he goes, and can Henry ask, would it be better if I sent a note the day before to ask if I could come and bring breakfast?
Um, she uh, that works out just fine. She says yes, and you do that from then on.
Mhm.
It's pretty rare for her to reply no, but it happens once or twice over the time. Uh, let's see. You said you got an 8, 11, and nat 20,
11.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, uh, okay. So for the nat 20, um, you do they kind of bring the conversation to the coup, but they also are pretty clear that like this is not a we are bringing you in, and it kind of even feels like they're giving this information up, but uh, not expecting you to act on it. So they tell you kind of in a roundabout manner, like you hear they're talking about um, Ander after their plans are concluded. They're talking about stuff that Ander might do. So you get the realization that they're not planning on killing him, and also the things that they're describing him doing makes it sound like he would not be Count. Um,
Like he would still be an aristocrat, or he would just not be nobility. Okay.
what they're talking about is kind of like worries of what he may try to do after their plots are after their plans are concluded. And it's like they're kind of talking about how they don't expect him to be able to muster any kind of rebellion. Um, so it's not clear of what position he would still hold, but it's also pretty clear that they're not talking about a rebellion against the king.
Mhm.
Um, and then for the 11, you have another one of those kind of close conversations that, or not close conversations, but like really easygoing conversations that just makes Chels feel more like a person rather than a player in a bigger game. Um, like you talk you talk about
Can I,
like entirely frivolous things most of the time. But what's up?
uh, uh, can I like kind of ask in a natural way what they do for fun? Like, what are their pastimes? Do they like to do any
Um,
hobbies or?
I will totally allow that to have been part of either the first or this last conversation that I'm referencing. And uh, Chels gets kind of a wry kind of smile and says, "Well, I won't speak for my brother," and then just leaves it at that. It leaves it at that for him, but says that she enjoys embroidery work, and uh, a couple other tasks that are. She doesn't say knitting, but a couple other tasks that are very like hand focused, but hand focused, automatic hand, brain go on and do whatever it wants.
Mm.
Um, and then also she and then aside from that, she says, and I like to practice. And with that, like all the lights go out and then come back on immediately. She's sitting in the same place, like she doesn't move at all. And you see like she's making arcane symbols with her hands.
Um, you know, I, if you don't want to tell me, that's fine. But I noticed that some of the spells that you do are, um, oh Ben, what's the word? Religious,
Cleric?
or yeah, I mean, I think she's a cleric. Henry thinks that she's a cleric and wants to ask that like your spells are religious in nature, kind of similar to how his are religious.
Holy?
Yeah,
Holy,
holy would
that's a
probably
good
be.
word. Thank
Um,
you. And asks, do you serve a deity? Or do you follow a deity, I think is what he asks.
um, excuse me. Um, she gives a smile and says, I was once a rather devout follower of Savras, but uh, the powers are most of what remains of that following.
Understand? They spell Savras. Would Henry know
Sure.
who Savras
Make
is?
a
Probably.
religion check.
Probably like either it's not that great today. It's fine. It's fine. A 5.
Excuse me. Um, I'm double checking my spelling. Ain't got a clue. Uh, with a 5, you know that Savras is not one of the gods displayed in the Hall of Light.
Okay, that's what I was asking. I was like, he would know if
Like
Savras was somebody
there,
what that was being worshipped around him. So, but yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
you were kind of taught about other gods as well in your training as a paladin, uh, but you don't like the name rings a bell slightly, but you don't remember anything about them.
Um, I would take exception if they were worshipped in the Hall of Light and Henry didn't know, because Henry would know all of his friends like who they worshipped and
Mhm.
all of that. But that makes sense. Um, um I think Henry asks, "What else do you practice, like magic wise?"
Well, you're asking what other kinds of magic she
Yeah, because
practices?
she showed. I think maybe he would say, do you have any other tricks, or yeah, some like a light way to ask like what other things, like little magic things she does to practice.
Um,
Jenny, sweetie, your camera.
Yeah, we got Super Mario again.
Oh my god.
Maybe. Oh, hang on. Ba-bum, bum. Oh, that's the background. I just tried to wipe something off of my screen, and it's the background of the character sheet I have pulled up. Judging by how long that they have been gone, I'm assuming they're actually working on fixes for it rather than, uh, which I was about to tell them to maybe check the cable, but I'm assuming that by being gone this long, they probably are doing that. All good.
I'm gonna look into this, but we'll keep going.
All right. So she kind of puts a finger next to her nose and says, "What's the saying? Magician never reveals their secrets."
I think Henry goes, "That's fair," but then does a little like flourish, and it's like sparkles.
Okay. Um. Okay. Uh, I think I'm going to call this interaction.
Yeah,
Um.
that sounds good. Is there anything else that I learn that doesn't have to be role played from
No, that's
this kind of stuff?
that's what you got.
Okay. Okay.
Um. Uh. And then
Okay, go ahead.
make me 3 investigation checks. This is for your knots that you already told me you were going to be working on.
Before I do that, can I do like an insight check for I'm not gonna use that die for how I think Chels views our friendship?
Oh, go ahead.
It's an 8. Freaking jumbo die.
Um, at an 8, uh, every time, so excluding the one time that she seemed a little impatient and like there was other stuff going on in her mind, um, every time she has been more than accommodating to you. At every time that you showed up, that it was like that she expected you. So every time other
Mhm.
than those first 2, there was very hot coffee ready and waiting. Um, uh, yeah. Always accommodating, answered your questions. Unless you started prying kind of deeper, like asking her what kind of magic she uses, uh,
Mhm.
she didn't like skirt around the questions. Um, you're you think that at the very least she holds respect for you. Um, yeah. Um, so yeah, 3 investigation checks.
Have I made any headway of like no, obviously Trent doesn't speak out loud, but like being buddy buddy with Trent other than him liking food?
Make a persuasion check for me.
Okay, that's a 16.
Um,
15. Sorry, I can't add.
More often than not, when you come over, he is there. Way more often than not. Like there might have been one time that he wasn't there, and even then, knowing his reputation, you're not certain that he wasn't there.
Hmm.
Um, uh, but you've gotten a couple grins out of him, and once or twice you've heard him make his very much does not sound like a laugh sound. That has exclusively happened after something at least relatively funny. Um, but yeah, so a little bit.
Mm. And then okay, sorry, last thing. Henry also was making an effort to bring a variety um, of food and included things that were like regional to Northern Faerun and things that were more regional to like Storgard and like more dwarven things like just kind of around Terraviri to see if any of them held nostalgia or if they recognized any of the kind of regional foods to be a little bit sneaky. That's the only sneaky
Okay,
thing he was doing.
I am going to make that an investigation check.
What is my investigation modifier? Oh, do great. All right. Okay, which one should I use? Big die or sparkle die? No, big die or gold die.
Who are you asking?
Cool.
You have your answer.
Whoever. Nat 20. Yes. Thank you, Bronwyn.
You are welcome.
Much love.
Okay, so why do I feel this need to reward net 20s so much?
Because you love Brennan Lee Mulligan,
I
and he
really
always
fucking
does.
do. He's a great
I
man.
love him so much.
Um,
Ah.
so what you get, first of all, you come to the distinct realization that Trent is an intense lover of breakfast foods.
Man after my own heart.
Uh, this isn't specific. You don't get any hits of nostalgia in any way from either of them. But Chels seems to like waffles. And Trent leans pretty heavy on the pastries.
Okay, in this world, are waffles and the kind of pastries that Trent likes, are they more popular in a specific region than any
Um,
others?
you have been to Faerun. You have been to the area of Faerun House Hart is from.
Mm-hmm.
You were in a bit of a rush when you were going through there, but you have still spent time there. Waffles are not usual there, but pastries are, and you got a nat 20. So um, there is a specific kind of pastry that is. It's not that it's not found anywhere else. It's just like kind of a special pastry there, and it's like it's a caramel thing. I don't know all of the names of every pastry. It has caramel in it, but that is like the specialty of the area, and that's always um, that's the first one Trent goes for every time that you bring pastries.
Okay.
And if for whatever happenstance you don't bring that one, he goes for kind of the closest thing to it. Um, fuck. You also notice that Chels does not eat any meat if you bring it. Trent does.
Eat eggs?
She does eat eggs. She does not eat meat.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you. That made me very happy.
If I give you enough rolls, eventually you're gonna get a 20. You just happen to get it on what breakfast they like. Um, so 3 investigation rolls, please.
Oh god, yeah.
5 rolls later.
That's a dirty 20, 16, and a 7.
Okay. So I'm going to get you 2 new power words, and then 5 plus 8 is 13. 14 just regular words. Because you can learn a word even if, but yeah. So that's that. Who else has something to do?
First, is my camera going crazy again?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. I don't even know if it would be like now or later. Ren does want to ask Call and or Zerka about like, hey, what should we do about the Erida situation? Like I want to make sure our stories match. What's our intention here? Um, so I think Ren probably would have brought that up with Call at some point, probably earlier on than later.
Okay.
Sorry, Call was petting a cat.
That's fair. That's fair. But no, Ren wanted to see, like, check with Call and or Zerka what we should be telling Erida or what we should not be telling Erida. But like, since we're both going to be like in contact with her handmaid, most likely, we should probably get our stories straight and try and figure out what we're gonna do. So Ren wants to coordinate with y'all. Um,
Absolutely. So, um, I'm assuming Ren brought it up with Call individually first?
yes.
Okay. Um, so, Call is going to go ahead and tell Ren that, Zerka basically just left it to Call's best judgment on what information was given to Erida. Um, so Zerka really does not have much else to contribute to this conversation. And so if we want to get our story straight, it's pretty much just between the two of us.
Okay. All right. Do we want to be like passing any information to the handmaid? Like, this is over a period of like a couple weeks or a month, right? And then like she's gonna be checking a dead drop and then like loitering around town square at midnight. So like
Not town square, just the courtyard.
just the courtyard. Yeah. Um. So yeah. Yeah. I don't want to
Presumably
do.
she would only be loitering if we sent, like, the way Call phrased it was that if there was any reason to meet, Call would um, explain as much in the note for a follow-up meeting, so that, like, she had no reason to loiter once she picked up the note that night. So she would never go out without the intention of, like, without knowing whether she was trying to, like, meet someone or not. So, like, the most, like, yeah, she'd be going through the courtyard late at night, but she wouldn't be, like, loitering there.
Yeah. That's what
So,
she made it sound like when she was talking to Ren, though. So he's like, yeah,
that's fair.
yeah.
Um,
Anyway, like if we should even be telling her anything, because we don't really. There are no real updates anyway. So like we don't even have anything to tell her.
honestly, I think that that in and of itself is probably an update. Like, you know, everything seems quiet. You know, every once in a while, Call is going out on a scouting mission, so maybe if they ever hear anything about like null activity, even if it's from a distance, Call could drop that kind of information. So, you know, which is probably admittedly something Erida would have heard if she was paying attention. I don't know if she is, but nevertheless, it is information that can be given to her. Call is a little bit wary of the idea of like trying to introduce players in the game to Erida.
Yeah.
So wants to stay away from that kind of thing. But you know, if the city seems quiet, the city seems quiet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, like, one way or another, are we telling her anything? So I think that's that, really. Cool. Okay.
I think we're aligned on that then.
Nice.
Alright. So I have a couple things that are going to happen within like the last week. Is there anything else that y'all want to have happened maybe earlier on, or just any other stuff that y'all want to have happened during this downtime?
I think we covered it.
I have more things. I'm sorry that this is gonna be a Henry
Oh.
heavy episode.
Here they are now.
We need Henry.
Okay, well these don't really have to be role played, but the first couple things. But Henry wants to make music with Ren because Ren has an instrument and Henry likes to sing, so Henry wants to do that kind of stuff. And wants to just do like, you know, has knitting time with Call, wants to do music time with Ren, and then also just, you know, they're more brunch activities, so just a lot of friends time.
I believe everyone has now said we want to that y'all want to spend extra time just being friends.
Great. Glad we're on the same page. Henry also wants to go to the dozen barracks, like in the evening time, and try to catch Andarion and talk to Andarion some more, and try to just kind of like be friends by association. Just like stand next to him while he's standing at the door, and try to make, you know, small talk, small conversation, and become friends.
I love how you get the impression that he's like a door guard. Have you ever considered that he's just got the bed closest to the door?
Yeah, that just stands there. I'm not saying like he's the doorman. I'm just he is
That's
by
the
the door.
visual I've got from you.
He does stand near the door pretty often. I'm just like, to be honest, he does.
He has enough respect for everyone in the dozen to not think that anybody is like doing just that kind of thing just by that. So, but yeah,
Okay,
that is what it sounds
I need
like.
two things from you. I need a stealth check, and I need a persuasion check. Stealth check first.
Is this one at disadvantage?
No.
Cause my armor? No. Okay.
I mean, unless, are you wearing your armor out and about on the town every day?
Probably not.
Okay, then no.
Okay. 10.
Okay.
And then persuasion. Okay. Okay. That's a 15.
Um, so in your standing next to Andarion, you're not overly loud, but you're also not as quiet as he is. Um, he doesn't. You. Here's one thing that certainly does not happen. He never gives you an annoyed look because you're making too much noise. That does not happen. And you said a 15 on the persuasion.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you are able to coerce him into a conversation. Uh, he keeps things extraordinarily polite, but he does not let the things go deep in any way. Like you don't have talks about your thoughts on the universe, or he does not gossip. Um, if Henry ever tries to talk about another person, which I don't, I'm going to give this information, but I know that Henry would never talk bad about someone to another person. Henry would not gossip. But if he were to gossip, Andy would not respond. So, like, for instance, there are people in the dozen who would gossip. So, if it, while in the barracks, just standing next to the man, someone else were to gossip, he there's no emotion in these looks, but he makes a definite look at the person gossiping and stops talking for a few seconds. The men don't like it. Um, other than that, I guess the something that you notice is that from time to time he will touch the scar on his right arm.
Can Henry ask him about it?
Make a persuasion check.
12.
How do you ask?
Um, in the most unassuming way possible. The most just, like it wouldn't hurt, obviously, because it's a scar, but
Technically,
like,
some scars can hurt.
okay, like I think he'll say, does it still bother you?
As polite as always, he says, uh, he says, he, yeah, he says it bothers me as a concept, and he pulls the sleeve of his robe as far down as he can to cover as much of it as he can, and then changes the subject.
Bothers me in concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
All right. Do you have other things?
Yeah, I need to give. So towards the end of this downtime, Henry needs to give Trent and Shells their presents,
Um.
and I'm nervous about it.
Okay. All right. Uh. Okay. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that right now.
Okay. Uh. Okay. So just one of the mornings that Henry. Oh, Henry also needs to send a letter. We talked about this, like 2 to 3 weeks after the execution. Sends a letter.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so then he goes over to their house for breakfast and just making small talk as normal. And then after they finish eating, Henry says, "I have a present for both of you."
Make an insight check.
Oh, dirty 20.
One second. One second. Um. Uh. Trent looks excited. Uh. You can't get a read on Chels at all.
Blasted stealthy woman. Okay. God, right after the execution session, I had it planned out in my head exactly how Henry was gonna say this to Chels, but that was like weeks ago, and now I'm gonna like bumble through it, and it's not gonna be as good. Okay, Henry's gonna give Trent's gift first, and it's as he's opening it, Henry's gonna say, there's this fox that I've seen around town, um, like an intelligent fox. I don't know much about him, but he like has grinned at me, and the way that he grinned just made me think of you. And I've been practicing my metal work most recently, and I thought this would look nice, and so I made you like a collar. He wears like a cape, right?
Mhm.
He wears like some sort of
It's a
like
cloak, but
a
yeah.
pin, a cloak. It's like a pin that would go like up here, like on his cloak.
He takes it out and he examines it as if he were extraordinarily nearsighted, where he's holding it like directly in front of his face, and you get the feeling that he is studying like every facet of this thing. But because he has his hands in front of his face, it's a lot harder to read his face, so you're not entirely sure how he is reacting to it. But when he does finally finish looking at it, he does pin it on, and he gives you his normal little like nod of the head that's a bow.
Mhm. Okay.
Um,
A bow. Um. Okay. Um. And then Henry takes like a noticeable deep breath and hands Chels her present, and it says, before you open it, I kind of want to explain. Um, the night that we were here, um, and I think does she like know what Henry's talking about when he says the night that we were here?
yes.
Okay. Uh, you. He's stopping and starting the way that I am. Every time that I have seen you, you have been the picture of poise and grace, and you are always put together and are the picture of confidence. The only time that the only exception to this was that day, and I think that that says a lot about your character because, in a positive way, because who would be okay on a day like that? But it seems that it is important to your goals to be perceived in a way that is confident and that is part of who you are. So I wanted to help um, make that happen even on the worst of days. So um, the present is twofold, and if you want to open it, you can. First, I wanted to ask, have you ever thought about using prestidigitation to take the wrinkles out of your dress whenever you're walking around? And then the second part is these cuffs that can go onto the inside of your sleeve. There's three different textures to the three different fabrics, and that way, if you ever need to fidget or if you're feeling anxious, you can just put your hands inside your sleeves and no one will know what you're doing and you won't betray any nervousness.
Um, from the time that you talk about her being the picture of poise and dignity and confidence, uh, she has had an eyebrow raised and is studying you. Um,
Check.
you can make an insight check.
11.
Um, you notice there are changes to kind of just the glint in her eyes as you talk, but you aren't able to parse what goes on there. Um, she takes them out of the packaging that you had and is kind of slowly spinning one in her hand, like using her thumb to like push it around in her fingers. Um, and stays quiet for a little while, and then asks, uh, "Did you make these yourself?"
I did.
she like nods really slowly and is still spinning it in her hand. She says, I'm a bit frustrated with myself for having shown that the reaction that you saw. I've worked hard to eliminate my tics, but apparently I have not. That being said, I use prestidigitation to clean and straighten my clothes often. It is the specific motion that calms me. So she's still spinning the fabric, and even with an 11, like, you're able to tell that, like, she doesn't hate it. She hasn't like set them down and been like, these are no textures for me. Um, uh, but you've already made. Excuse me. You've already. I just muted after coughing when I was trying to talk. Um, uh, you've already made your rolls for your like progress with them. So I'm not gonna give you another one of those, but she does accept the gift and does not, like I said, doesn't do anything about them. I will say this isn't the last time, so I'm going to let you make a perception check, and this is going to encompass every time you come see her afterward, because I assume you would look to see if she's wearing them.
Dirty 20.
Dirty 20. At least one of the times she is wearing them. However, Trent wears the fox on and off. He's not always wearing it. So yeah, do you have more?
No.
Okay. Then the first thing, sometime midday, I'm gonna say that this is like on the way you're back from the Hearts one day. A a halfling man approaches you. He's kind of dirty from travel. He's wearing like riding pants and riding boots. But he does not have a horse with him at the moment. But he approaches and calls out your name. He says, Silverhammer?
Oh, yes, that's me.
He comes up to you and pulls a envelope and shows a seal to you that you recognize. And he says, I work directly with the post, so you're kind of lucky. I usually only charge 2 silver for these kind of deliveries.
All right, he takes out 2 silver and gives it to the man.
All right. Now, I'm gonna send it to you, and you can decide if you want to. Where am I?
I guess I'll ask. I feel like I've just been taking up the entire session with my stuff. Jenny and Bronwyn, do you want do you want Henry to confide and run and call about Bennett and have that as a scene, or do we want to progress the plot and Henry can do that at a later date?
Let's see what Henry would do.
Okay.
Well, Henry's gonna talk to y'all about it, but it's like there's an inciting event of like Henry's gonna realize something and then be distraught and go to run and call. And it's just I feel like it's gonna be an emotional scene. I don't know if we
Well,
want to do that right now or later.
this might be an inciting event for the inciting event.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Bronwyn.
No, I think the real question is there something that Ben really wants to knock out this session and let that be the deciding factor? Because
I am totally. I would be perfectly happy if this session was just finishing up the downtime. I'm totally fine. I am in no rush.
I'm happy with that too. I'm just saying, is there anything else besides this that you wanted to knock out during the downtime? Like, was Henry's letter it, or
I have a
like, do
little
we
bit
want
more.
to just
I have a little bit more, but we can do it at the beginning of next session if we need to. I want y'all to get everything done that y'all want to get done.
In that case, Asher, make the choice yourself. Because you are Henry.
Oh, and the gift is hang on one second. So there's the letter and also sorry, I said envelope. It was a package. It was a small package. Um it is it's an opal that is 2 inches in diameter.
Okay, so Henry's gonna have gone back to his room to read the letter and open the present. I think he's just gonna leave it on like his desk, and he's going to freak out a little bit and start practicing some bracelets. And is going to get really flustered even doing that, and he's going to go out into the courtyard and walk and practice his knots and braiding outside. And he's going to one of the knots that he's learned, you have to do it with another string that's not hair, and so the only thing around is like some grass. So he pulls out some long strands of grass and he's like weaving that into his hair, doing flowers in his hair, just kind of trying to like nervous energy get all of it out. And then he's going to go back to his room and he's going to look in the mirror and he's going to realize the inciting event that I was talking about, and he's going to immediately go and try to find Ren and Call to freak out.
All right.
So
make a
where
perception
do we
check
think
for
they
me.
should be?
Wait, sorry.
14.
Who are you going to find first? Who are you trying to find first?
I think Call is more usually more reliable to be in their room, where Ren avoids the mage tower a lot and
So
is not as easy to find.
during the downtime, though, Ren has been spending a lot of time with Barnabas, right?
Yeah, Red's been
Yeah.
pretty at home at the mage tower, actually.
Yeah. So this is happening towards the end of the downtime. So Ren has been pretty regularly either in their room or with Barnabas.
Okay, well, I think since Call lives on the ground floor, rather than going up to Red's
Okay.
room and coming down, I think Henry's gonna go find Call first, and then say, "We need to go find Ren. I need to talk to y'all."
On a 14, you find Call sparring with Arnold and Kayla in the little area next to the barracks.
So Call's getting their ass handed to them, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Henry comes up and is just crying.
Call's gonna try and dodge out of that fight and go make sure everything's okay.
As you do pull out of the fight, Kayla immediately notices that you're gone because the two of you are working together against Arnold. And also kind of rolls out of the fight and looks around for you, sees you and you running to Henry, and you hear her make a comment to Arnold uh, uh, about Henry having lots of emotions.
It's true.
Henry
Oh.
is sobbing and getting mocked for it. Oh my god. Well,
Love
Carl's
that.
basically gonna run up and be like, okay, what's on fire? What's happening?
We need to find Red. Just crying. And just I think takes Call's hand and like just starts going towards the mage tower.
Carl's probably just gonna kind of look back at Kayla and Arnold like, goodbye. And then just go with Henry. And Carl's getting like dragged off.
Okay, I'm just not gonna take notes right now.
On your way away, as you look back to be like, sorry, guess I'm leaving, Kayla slips her foot behind Arnold's and knocks his feet out from under him, lands him flat on his back, holds her hands up in victory, and just runs into the barracks.
Carl's probably gonna be cheering Kayla on at that point, and then like realize that this is not the tone for Henry right now, and then look over and be like, oh fuck.
When you roll a
Wanna hang
nat
out with
doesn't
them
even
so
know.
bad.
when you roll a nat 20, you can still put the tavern brawler on his ass.
I love that.
Kayla is so good. All of the dozen is just so good. I love them all.
I'm biased, but I'm also correct.
You are correct. Okay, so we go up to Ren's room. We knock on the door. I think Henry just like slumps, like his head knocks against the door to knock.
So, Henry, just roll Henry and Ren both roll d20s. Tell me the numbers.
18.
7.
Um. Okay, so Ren is actually not in his room, but he is on his way down from Barnabas's room. So as you're walking towards your own room, you hear from down the stairs just this thump, and then kind of just sliding, sort of grating noise, and then probably worried noises from Call.
Ren walks faster. So okay. He sees this and kind of stops and starts, like, clearly worried. And do we need to go inside? I'll just open the door, okay? Okay, so everyone's in Ren's swanky mage room.
I think Henry just is just like hiccuping and just crying, and I think takes a minute to kind of compose himself. What?
And Carl's looking at Ren like, oh, I found him like this. Carl's like, search me.
It's just ridiculous. But Henry says, I should have planned how I was going to say this. I just had the most horrible realization. Ben, how long has it been? 7 years? 5 years? 6 years?
You're 24. You left at 17. 7 years.
So I guess 7 years. Like, I just had the most horrible realization 7 years too late.
Okay.
He holds up his hair to like this knot that has like grass in it, and says, I know you guys know that I have been learning new words. And his voice is kind of breaking, but he's managing to get it out. But he says, um, I learned a lot of words from my first love, and it didn't work out. I had to leave, but um, the thing I didn't realize is the day that I told him I had to leave, he was going to teach me a new word, and I saw him practicing it, and it was this one, and it means romantic love, and we had never said I love you to each other, and he was going to tell me that, and instead I told him I have to go, and I can't see you anymore. And um, I have been writing letters to him for 7 years, and he wrote back to me today for the first time, and then Henry just starts just crying and can't continue.
Ren's just gonna like sit on the bed with Henry and just like hold him and pat his back, like gonna let him talk and cry it out. So
Um, yeah, Call is kind of Call's kind of staring at the braid and kind of absently like patting Henry.
I think Henry calms down being with his friends and just kind of sniffles and thanks them for being there with him.
Um, the opal. Well, I guess never mind.
What?
Uh, there was nothing in the letter about it, so as of right now, it's just a very pretty rock.
Yeah. I think that's all. He just kind of shares just free will, but yeah. If Call or Ren don't plan on asking any questions or anything, then I think we can just kind of not roleplay and just say that yeah, they moved on to lighter topics and or buds and stuff.
Ren will make him some tea. Like,
That's nice.
yeah. He
Call
doesn't really
is
have any.
yeah.
Yeah.
Despite Call being a questions person, Call also understands personal boundaries, and so will likely not ask. um, but Call is going to kind of maneuver Henry into a big bear hug.
Oh yes.
And like if Henry is just absolutely distraught, Call is going to like force Henry to like lay down on Ren's bed and will like bro spoon Henry.
Nice.
So
That's
Henry
really
gets the full friend snuggle.
friend snuggle. That's very nice.
Henry
Bro
is a
spoon.
tactile person, and Call understands this.
That's Paul's a good friend. All right. Well, I think we can move on then from more drama.
I'm so like I'm curious to know what's going on, but Call's not gonna ask.
It's
Just
meta.
I think Henry. So something that y'all would know is that
I'm
Henry's
not
pretty
asking.
open.
I'm not asking for the information. I'm just saying I'm desperately curious.
If at a later time when Henry's not as emotional, they want to ask him questions about it, Henry is like very like willing to share personal stories and anecdotes and is very open and is not very guarded with his secrets or his past or anything. He's never really like the only thing that he's ever been kind of weird about is like talking about like his parents and like specifically growing up, like stuff specific to his parents about growing up. But y'all also kind of have an insight into that, having seen his nightmares that one time. So, but anything else, he's kind of open about. So if they ever wanted to ask, I think he would be open to it. But doesn't have to, because they're both so very polite, gentle, gentle people.
Okay.
All right, what's next on the agenda?
I think that is all I had for downtime.
Paul's mom's letter isn't going to arrive?
No, because Call's mom doesn't live in a major city.
Call wrote the letter significantly before Henry.
Different response to a different letter from Henry.
Oh.
Yeah, it was from
Henry sent a
earlier.
letter like the day before, or was it day of the execution?
Day of the execution, before he went to do the absolution, like I don't know what's about to happen.
And
I'm gonna give
the
you
letter was in
a
response
heads
to
up.
that. And then he's
Yeah.
just this much more recent letter was okay, so shit didn't hit the fan.
I'm alive. I didn't kill the city guard and try to break this prisoner out.
But yeah,
That
so
didn't happen.
this letter was in response to a letter sent just barely before Call's letter to their mom.
Yeah.
I'm going to riot. Ben. I have been desperate for this letter, and it has been in game over a month.
We need it. We need it.
I wrote the actual fucking letter.
You wrote a great fucking letter.
Air?
She didn't. Call did not show it to y'all.
Call didn't show it to Henry.
Fine.
I don't think
Call
Call
just
even
gave
showed
up
it to Juster.
No, Call didn't show it to
Ren's
Chester.
the only
Call
one.
did, however, show the bad first draft to Ren.
The best one.
Yeah.
Wait, draft, not even the first draft.
Yeah. This is the word vomit on the page before it turns into anything cohesive. But yeah, I want you to know, Ren, that I am frothing at the mouth for this content. I have literally before every single session since writing that letter texted Jenny about it. Every single session.
I'm gonna start.
You're what?
I'm gonna start bothering Ben about this. I'll bother him about things just during life.
Bothering me about stuff makes me not want to do it.
Not bother, but like talk. Okay, see, I say bother. I'm more.
You mean you
like,
want to start?
I'll talk about things to like hype up.
I got you.
Like,
I mean,
oh,
what I need to do
really
is
like
just
this
read
campaign.
through Call's letter a couple times and see the response from that.
I'm just gonna start hyping up the Call's mom interaction stuff.
Also, in commendation for Bronwyn writing the letter, it's also a relatively long letter, and in comparison, the letter that Henry just received was 4 lines long.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Um.
Oh, I am not asking for information. I am so goddamn curious.
Call asks every question. Call is the question
asks every question, but Call is also very much trying to be a person who is respectful of people's personal boundaries.
Call's too good of a person.
Thing that Call actively works on. Call wants to respect people's personal privacy.
Because Call's only flaw is that they're a morning person.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Call's only flaw is that they're a morning person.
Well. I mean, unless y'all have something else to do, I'm going to be ending downtime in a moment.
I'm sorry. One more thing. I'm sorry. He needs to go to the library and read about the UNT attack on Feyred report to the
Oh,
library.
yes. You need to go talk to... Ooh, what was his name? I definitely named that man. What was his name?
I wrote it down. Let me find his name. UNT lore. Farron. His name is Farron. Farin.
Yes, Farron. Yes. So because we're saying this is downtime, I'm not gonna like time restrict you on this because you would be able to sit around and wait
Yeah,
for
I
him
think
or
he
come back
went.
the next day or whatever. So you'll be able to
Yeah.
find him. Um, you'll be able to find him easy enough. And okay, so the reminding myself, it was the attack in Faerun that this report is about. Um,
Mhm.
okay, so uh, uh, so you find him, talk very briefly, and he gives you that report that he kind of gathered together. Um, uh, and so he brings forward. It's a rather like militaristic report. Um, Jesus fuck. Uh, man. Uh, it's a rather militaristic report. It's mostly about casualties. It does list that the amount of Yuan-Ti present in the attack was somewhere between 120 and 150 individuals. Um, there were some rather high ranking in the Yuan-Ti tiers beings there. There were some I can't,
Aberration?
yeah, aberration.
Aberration or abomination? I think it is abomination.
I
You
think
would
it is
call it
abomination.
aberration.
So there was more than one abomination present, which is rather odd. Usually an abomination is like the top tier of Yuan-Ti society, and everyone else kind of serves the one, and they usually are competitive with each other. Um, at least in the notes of uh, Farron. In Farron's notes, he points out that that is odd. However, the incursion led to the deaths of over 400 denizens of Faerun. Um, and there was a village that was entirely destroyed, um, and um, there was a village entirely destroyed before even a military response could be made. And when they did, it was a long, bloody battle, uh, and the Yuan-Ti fought to the last individual, and none surrendered and none retreated. And so, in the end, all were killed. Uh, or that is the military report. Obviously, you don't know if somebody was able to sneak off in the fray, but uh, and even though uh, the Faerun forces outnumbered them 4-1, uh, they still had, of the over 400 casualties, 300 were from that fight alone. Um, yeah.
I think Henry's gonna like read it twice, turn it, like look for more and say, so there's no, is there any resources on the context of this fight, of anything that might have happened before to um, incite this?
Um, he looks through a couple other notes that he has, and he says, no, it wasn't a like recently founded village that was destroyed. Well, as far as all Faerun villages are relatively recently founded. Um, but there was no notes at the founding of the village of any Yuan-Ti presence. Um, so as far as we know, they didn't uh, they didn't root out a village of Yuan-Ti and take the settlement from them. But that's about it. As it says in the report, all of the Yuan-Ti in the attack were killed. None of them surrendered, so none were able to be interrogated.
And in the report, does it say like where it happened? Like, could Henry go to that area and talk to an elf who's still alive and youthful that would remember it? Is there any
The town
names?
destroyed was in southern Faerun, slightly east. Yeah, but it does like it tells exactly where the village that was destroyed was.
And are there any names of like elven military figures that he could go and track down and talk to later?
There would be some listed. I don't have them.
Okay,
I will
okay,
get
that's fine.
them to you at another time.
Okay. All right, cool. I promise that's the last thing for downtime for me.
All right, now call in Ren's extensive lists that they made while Henry was going through all of his. I'm just kidding. Um, unless y'all, if you came up with something you want to do, please. No. All right.
No.
So to end your downtime, uh, call. You are out on one of your one of the relatively few times that you are sent out outside the walls to scout. You're scouting the southeastern section outside of the walls. Make a perception check for me.
My first perception check with my new bonuses. Let's see how dumb this roll is. Not that bad. I rolled real low, so it's a 15.
15. 15 is plenty to notice the pretty small host coming up the road. There's 9-ish. Uh, there are 9-ish individuals coming up the road from the southeast. You are with... Who would you be with? You are with Arnold and Dirk. Uh, and so yeah, they're coming up the road. You notice a group of about 9 individuals coming up the road. Yeah.
Okay. Can we tell like where are they headed for, like the city?
They're headed directly
gates or
towards the city.
Okay. Call is presumably just going to keep an eye on them as they approach, but otherwise not do anything.
As they get a bit closer, you realize that the one leading is wearing scale mail armor and has long white hair, and they seem to have gray skin.
Oh.
It's also, you can tell it's a It is a woman, very tall, about 6'2".
What?
A few, a few of the members of she is not, but a few of the members of the party with her are wearing Storeguard green.
Okay.
Uh, Go ahead.
Does Call recognize anyone?
You recognize her. It's Illyria.
Is our girl. Is our girl. Is our girl. God, we didn't even know that she'd left. We totally stopped paying attention to Illyria real
She
quick.
left like the day after y'all got back. I thought that I narrated that.
Yeah, you did. I remembered. It's
God.
okay, Luria.
You also remember she left as she was the leader, and including her with a group of 25.
Fuck.
Because so there was her, or sorry, no, 27. So it was her, 2 members of each of the corps, and then 20 of the town guard.
Okay, well, at that point, Call is going to remind Arnold who Illyria is and be like, see, that's her, and see if the consensus of the like scouting party is that Call can like go and try and meet them and see what's going on.
They offer to go with you. Like, somewhat part of
And-
your job is to escort members who are allowed into the city. It's to escort them in.
Perfect. So Call's gonna run up there. I'm assuming that Call's not actually on foot, but anyway.
No, you were issued horses for this task.
Yes. But yeah, Call's gonna dart right on over there.
So as you approach, they are not moving quickly. You can see quite a few are wounded. You are able to make out, just from looking, there is a cleric and a paladin. No, sorry, there's a cleric and a druid. Illyria is a paladin, so they did not feel the need to send a paladin with them. There are 2 members of the Corps of Blades that you can still see, but you only see one magey-looking person. And then count, and then there are 3 kind of heavily wounded-looking members of the guard left alive.
Fuck. Call is going to kind of call and like shout out in advance of showing up so that Illyria has an idea of who it is, but is going to not try to sound overtly chipper.
She raises her shield in kind of a salute to you, and just like calls a halt to the rest of the group, so that y'all can talk for a second before moving towards the city.
Wonderful. Call is going to, as they arrive, Call is just going to just kind of assume point between the dozen and basically say, it looks like you had an eventful time.
She nods and she looks exhausted. Kind of funny that every time you meet this woman, she is tore up and tired. Let me get my EQL notes up. I have that listed wrong. She says, "Well, though our numbers may suggest otherwise, I actually have victory to report. Not complete, but we found the host of Null that that left the forest, and we slaughtered them, to not put it brightly. Um, uh, there are still more, uh, and we know of a few roaming bands, but we think we have destroyed the majority of the group. Um, throughout a few different battles, she holds out a necklace, and says, she's holding out a necklace of teeth. She says, "I don't believe any of them were fangs, but I took their fangs anyway." And she chuckles at her own joke a little bit. It is a lot, like a full necklace. There's no empty space. And then you also notice that hung at her side is like a second one that's like half full. Like there are hundreds of teeth. Um, uh,
Fuck.
and she just kind of like, she looks a little proud of herself, but also is just so fucking tired that she's not gonna stand here and brag.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "We still know the location of some, but the last fight was the hardest, and we lost most of our number, including our wizard. So I was hoping that Count Ander might grant me a few more men to finish the rest of them off. And we are in desperate need of resupply and medical aid."
Um, Absolutely understood. We would be happy to escort you back into the city. And personally, I would love any more information you're inclined to give.
Uh, she's like, "Yeah, of course I'll have to give a full report to Ander, but yeah, I'll gladly tell you." And they like start moving, so y'all aren't just standing here
Carl
talking
is
the whole
also
time.
going to ask after her personally, because they're kind of buddies.
Yeah.
So Paul is also like, how are you doing? Are you okay?
Make a perception check real quick.
Okay. I'm rolling so low today, 17.
Um, Solo 17. Um, uh, with a 17, you notice that she still is only using the longsword that y'all recovered. She has no other weapons on her. But she says, "The task is not done, but I think I can complete it. Um, I'm I have some healing capability myself, so I am nowhere near death, but a long, long sleep in a bed would be very welcome."
I fully understand that. Were you able to recover or neutralize any of the materials that they were traveling with?
Um, she said, "The vials. We destroyed what we came across. Uh, she's like, you can see her. It's taken her a bit to like fully remember both the events that she just lived through and also like y'all's trip together. But she says, "We did come across a full crate of that inky death, and we destroyed it thoroughly with fire. Um, our druid here, she motions to a leather-clad member of the Corps of Light who uh, looks really, really very much like a hippie. Very long, shaggy hair, walks with a staff. But he said you know, knew of it and how to destroy it, and we did not leave any trace. She thinks for a second and says, "I believe Oren told us that there were 2 crates, yes, that he had recently sent out.
If memory serves, yes.
We did. I believe we only found one. It was full, though. I checked before we destroyed it."
I appreciate that. Okay. Call is, like, at this point, simultaneously desperate to ask more questions and also very aware that Illuria's brain is working at about 50% right now, if that.
That's generous.
And so it's probably going to just not ask any further questions and just see if she volunteers any more information herself.
She does say, "We have some pretty good intel on the surviving groups of Knoll. Most of them are still down southeast, but we were able to interrogate one of the cultists, and he told us that there was a group that is actually northwest of the city. My plan is to tell Ander of them and perhaps suggest that he send another group to destroy them, and I would take any more men that he would send with me to return to the southeast and root out any remainders there."
Understood.
And then she takes half a step and stops a little bit before continuing and says, I'm sorry. It's good to see you, Call."
From whatever vantage point they have, are they on foot or are they on horses?
They are on foot. So sorry, Call is on horseback. Illuria is on foot.
In that case, Call is going to just kind of reach down as much as they can and give her no, she doesn't seem like a very touchy person, but really firmly just kind of place their hand on her shoulder and just be like, "I'm glad to see you well."
No new information comes. Some of the other members of the party talk about share battle stories a little bit, kind of with not as much enthusiasm as battle stories are normally shared. The surviving member of the Corps of Mages is a warlock, and he does not speak. In the entire journey, he doesn't say anything.
Call does want to see if anyone is doing so poorly as to need Call's horse.
Not really. I mean, they've made it a ways, and they do actually mention that they left some wounded in a town on the way, who were too wounded to travel. There were only 3 that they left in such a manner, but when those 3 are well enough, they'll make the journey back to Storgard on their own. Or if perhaps Illuria comes back with a larger party, then they might just pick them up and take them with them to do some more whip ass. But uh, uh, they're the guardsmen are kind of the more worse for wear of the group. One of them is missing a hand, um, but the others are at least whole, but scarred and very, very tired. Mechanics wise, I'm going to let you know they all have 2 levels of exhaustion, which means their
Tired.
movement is halved and they would have disadvantage on every skill check.
They tired.
Um,
Um.
Also, it will take 2 days of rest for them to be back at 100%. So no real new impactful information along the way. Just swapping war stories, kind of on the somber notes of telling how this friend of theirs died or that member of the party was incapacitated or whatever. Um, you do they talk very highly of the wizard. Um, Apparently he saved a bunch of their lives in his death. Um,
Good for him.
and about that time, you get back to the city. Are you going? Would you? You are you're required to just get them in the gate. That's your job description. Would you go with them all the way to the keep, or what are you doing?
Call intends to. Call has at this point, vested interest in what Alluria's mission was and what the full mission debrief would be. So, Call's going to follow Alluria as much as they're allowed.
Okay. Let's see. All right. I'm trying to think of a way to give Henry a chance to at least see y'all coming in. Because Ren lives in a tower, and so therefore, looking out the window, you can see stuff. But I'm it's later in the day than for Henry to be on his way back from the Hearts.
He's
But he
sometimes
could
just in
definitely
the
be.
courtyard.
He could
Yeah.
definitely be working at the forge.
Yes. Because he's going there periodically to regain some forging skills.
Yeah. So we'll have Henry make a perception check real quick.
9.
Well. So Ren, make a perception check for me. Henry is busy at the forge.
16.
Too busy for you.
So Ren is just in his room, probably going over some of the pretty intense stuff that Barnabas is teaching him. And also, pretty difficult to learn, and considering multi-classing requisite for wizards is an intelligence of 13, probably a little difficult for Ren to learn. But
Yeah, his intelligence is 12 for the folks at home. He's doing his best.
yeah, I mean, he did get the feat, so he has gotten smarter with Barnabas, and given more time, who knows what else could happen.
He needs it.
But you happen to look up out of your window and see Call no longer on horseback because Call was not riding a horse that they own. It was just like a loaner from the Corps of Blades because scouting missions. So y'all left your horses at the stables. So you look out and see Call, and Arnold and who else did I say? Dirk, along with this group, and you recognize Aloria. Do you rush down lots of stairs?
Yes. Yes, he does.
All right. So you get to the party as they're getting pretty close to the main doors, to the Great Hall. And there you go. That's where you are.
Okay. Yeah, he's just gonna do the general thing of checking on everybody and getting caught up, checking on Illyria. He's happy to see her again. You know.
You don't know even the you didn't know the wizard beforehand or this warlock. For the most part, you could recognize a good portion of the sorcerers, but you don't really know anyone of the other classes. And but you do know that the wizard isn't there because you knew you were there when Count Ander gave Illyria the 2 of each corps and the 20 guardsmen. So you notice the absence of that wizard and also the absence of 17 guardsmen. And also you see how they look. And what do you do?
Well, I guess the first thing in order is to get them to medical attention, so healers, so Core of Light maybe?
Oh, so Illyria has healing spells, and there were 2 members of the Corps of Light with them, so they're not in immediate medical danger.
Okay.
Honestly, right now, the worst part about them is that they are very tired. However, they do have to report to Count Ander upon their return.
Okay.
And y'all are at the entrance of the Great Hall now. There's a
Yeah,
herald running in for it.
yeah, he'll just stay to support.
Okay. Um, because I need Henry there, someone is going to run into the forge a little after the party passes, and just start telling the dwarven armorer that who owns the forge that Henry is working at about this group that came back, and he's rather awestruck by the 6'2" Aesmar woman leading the group, because Aesmar aren't super common. So
who is?
This is someone off the street who came into the forge.
Oh, okay.
And so he's telling the owner of the
Okay.
forge, but you can hear.
Okay.
And he describes the group.
Okay. I think Henry is Illyria because there's not a lot of Celestials around, or Aesmars around, and I think kind of puts his stuff up real quick and says, "Hey, thank you so much. I gotta go. I'll see you tomorrow." And just leaves.
So a little bit of time goes by. Henry is running up, and as Henry is arriving, the door opens. And you all are let in, and at first, so I am gonna say the guards kind of try to stop y'all Dirk and Arnold head off to the barracks because like their job is complete, and they don't have
Yeah.
any personal connection to Luria. And one of the guardsmen is like, okay, like, what are the three of you doing?
Um, well, Carl's just gonna, Carl's going to say, we were, we were the group that brought Aluria into the city to request this mission in the first place, and we're the people that notified the, like, cause of this mission to the Count.
Give me a persuasion check.
Oh god, what is my persuasion? 11.
Well, he rolled a 4, so he kind of like looks at the other guard at the door and is like, okay, I guess, I mean that sounds about right, and then just lets you by. um, so you actually don't, so you don't go into Count Anders like office study type room that y'all saw him in last. He is actually in the Great Hall on the dais, and actually the three heads of the corps are there, as well as Carta, and I think that's actually it. Erida is there as well, um, sitting up on the dais next to him. And then, so normally Carta sits in like that box on the side, but she is actually on one of the lower tiers of the dais, where like kind of where the like master of coin and such would sit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but for now, it is just her and the three Lords Commander. Um, and so, first of all, can I get one person to make an insight check on Ander?
I have a +5. Oh, that's a 23.
Um, okay. Well, I'm gonna give more than just on Ander. So first of all, Ander looks concerned that there are so few of them. Carta doesn't have much emotion one way or the other at this party. She just seems ready for the information. Erida doesn't seem to know what's going on. And then Lord Umber. Lord Umber looks slightly disappointed. Um, uh, Lord Commander Rhine looks honestly like a little bit. He's got, um you've probably seen this look in commanders before of, I sent these people away and they died and I'm upset about it. Um, and then Barnabas, livid is the wrong word, but he does look angry. Um, uh, and so yeah, um, Aluria steps forward, bows rather deeply, and kind of stumbles a little bit as she does so because she's fucking exhausted. Um, and gives the full report. a couple of the faces ease a little bit as she gives the report. She tells about like some pretty great successes that they had. Like she once again shows her 2 necklaces of just teeth upon teeth upon teeth. And finally, after a moment, gives a full count and says, I believe in the time we killed somewhere around 150 gnolls. And maybe a third that number again of cultists. Um, and at that, Ender is really surprised and like, with just your party of less than 30? And Illyria says, they were split heavily. We often came upon them in groups of 5 to 10. Those battles were easy. The last one, there was almost 50 of them. And if it weren't for the wizard Remus, it is very possible that all of us would not have made it.
What is Barnabas looking like at this moment in time?
Kind of angry and sad. So you, especially Ren knows that Barnabas only takes on individual students, and at that, not often. It's
This is not a proud smile. This is an oh shit. This was like a personal like friend of, yeah.
So Praetor Paramount Tara is like the wizard's head, but she is not here. But Barnabas looks upset. And the warlock is like keeping his head down and not making eye contact with anybody. And the 2 members of the Core of Light give brief reports to like on their job healing, and they just explain that the way Remus went about holding off a massive amount and then casting a spell that seemed to they look a little uneasy explaining it, and then finally they let out that he cast a necromantic spell that seemed to turn his life into their death. And by the time they got to him, they even tried to cast Revivify, and it would not work. And they seem that like they seemed a little bit like it was taboo to talk about him using this super powerful necromantic spell. But also they seem really sad that they could not save him. I realize it's a little bit funny that I'm talking about how they were saying it was necromantic spells are taboo, and Revivify is a spell from the school of necromancy. But um, and the different Lords Commander ask questions, clarifying questions and such. Ander even asks questions from time to time, but they're usually along the lines of his previous question of how did less than 30 people kill like 200? So like they're clarifying questions, but they seem to be like somewhat uneducated clarifying questions.
That's middle management for you.
Um, except he is the highest management in the room. Um, uh, but Erida doesn't speak, and she doesn't seem bored. Like she's in no way disrespectful to the story being told. But she also like doesn't seem overly interested. No, wait, I'm sorry, that's entirely wrong. She is fully invested to this conversation, and does actually speak up. She like every once in a while, uh, they mention like a clever way that they captured and killed some gnolls that it is akin to like dropping the roof of a building in on them, and she will ask a question of like, did you go in and make sure they were dead? Um, in every case that it is actually questionable, they did in fact check. Um, and if anybody wants to give, let me have one person make a history check. Who wants to make a history check? All right, call, go for it.
Call. 12.
12 is enough. If you remember, Erida was held captive by Noel for about
All
a
right.
year.
Yup.
Remembered that.
uh,
I
somewhat
could do that.
justified in her want for their death. Um, as you know, somewhat extra justified. um, sorry for all of the coughing. Uh, so yeah, they finished the report, and then um, thank you for all your compliments on my grammar, but I'm no Lord's Commander, okay? um, so they they start mentioning the remnants of Null that they know about and where they are. And Illyria like doesn't even fully get the request for more soldiers out, and Andrew approves it immediately. He asks Barnabas to send a replacement from the Corps of Mages, and he does. He also says, I see that all of you look tired, so take a couple days to rest before going out. But if we could bring the number back to two of each corps, and uh, we will replace the three guardsmen that have returned as well as those lost, bringing your number back to 27. Um, and Illyria bows and thanks him, and then says, and then brings up, as she suggested, or as she talked about with Call, she just gives the suggestion of perhaps sending a separate group to the northwest, uh, just so that they don't have to make a super roundabout journey. And Count Ander nods, and then notices the three of you. Um,
Knew this was coming.
and he clarifies with Illyria, how many do you think were there, where are to the north? And Illyria says, from the one that we interrogated, it was a small group, um, and they did not. They often attribute specific snarls and like qualities to those stronger of the knoll. Um, I believe they called them pack leaders, and they always gave them, something like rip tooth or jagged spine, ridiculous names. Um, uh, they didn't mention even one of that strength there. I believe it is a small party. I think they may be looking for something. Um, but that is the information we were able to get from our prisoner. Ander nods and says, "Well, the three of you have proved yourself in the past. Um, I believe that this might be a shorter journey, or I would hope that it would be a shorter journey than your last. Um, when will you be ready to leave?"
Very swiftly.
Yeah.
Um, Ren, you hear a message spell in your head from Barnabas, and it just says, "Keep yourself safe."
Ren goes ahead and just replies, "Thank you, sir."
Um, I can't go on anymore. um, but we will start next session with preparations for leaving.
All right.
He's going to do a similar thing to last time, and he's going to offer y'all 200 gold uh, to split between you for provisions before leaving. And then he actually dismisses y'all to go start your preparations and finishes interviewing with Illyria and the group and gets like more detailed reports from each of the members.
All right.
I'm eager to explore more of the map. I am going to scream. I just want the letter and we're about to
Well,
leave.
see, here you'll be gone for a little bit, so it's much more likely that it will be there when you return.
Ben, do you know how many sessions it's going to be before I get the payoff of the letter I already wrote like 4 sessions ago?
Depends how long y'all spend on this mission. Depends how quickly y'all want to get back.
We'll just have to kill stuff really, really fast and then get back
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
feed army out.
Speaking of
I'm
killing
willing.
stuff, though, there is something I wanted to bring up. This is something specifically I am going to try to do, but I would also like it if y'all would do it as well. I'm going to narrate how combat is happening a little more graphically is the wrong word, but more like theatrically. Um, so rather than saying I take a shot with my bow, maybe like say where you're aiming, a little bit of your like maybe a very brief explanation of like why you choose to shoot this one, why you do this. Um, Also, a really cool thing that I like from watching Critical Role is that when the spellcasters cast spells, especially if whatever spell has a material component, they describe how they use that material component. And I think it's really cool and really immersive and makes combat way more fun. So if you if my spellcasters wouldn't mind reading their spells and figuring that out a little bit, that'd be really cool. Um, I think it'll make combat more fun than just sitting there waiting until it's your turn again. Um,
Mm.
uh, and then I am going to try and do like much more narration, try and put y'all's actions together to, like I said, make it more theatrical. Um, Hopefully, I remember to actually do it when it's happening rather than just talking about it now. That being said, do we want to play next session?
Yeah.
Yep. I am-
Fridays have been good for me.
Uh, hmm. Yeah, if it's next week, Friday should still work for me.
Ash, you
I
look
need to
worried.
check. Skylar, remember, Addie and I are gonna go to Dallas for Skylar's birthday, and I need to look and see when that is, and also ask off of work.
Hmm.
That might be next week. Let me see. Because her birthday is Valentine's Day, but I don't
Yeah, I feel
know.
like I seem to
But
remember
I
the
think
11th being maybe the 12th.
let's see. So many cute pictures of Skylar. Okay, Skylar's is gonna be 2/11, so yeah, that's next week,
Okay, and the 11th is Friday.
That is Friday.
Friday evening.
Because it's my
Gross.
brother's birthday.
Mm.
Today was Rachel's birthday.
Oh, I didn't text her. I need to text her.
So
I don't
are
have
you
her
wanting to
number.
fly out Thursday or Friday
I'm
morning?
driving for sure.
Oh, you're driving.
Yeah.
You're gonna
I'm
drive
not
with Addie on your own?
It like honestly, the flight took longer than it would have to
Right,
drive because
right.
we left early enough to get there and we were at the gate for a little bit, the flight, and then the flight being delayed, and then driving back to my parents' house, it was like 7 hours, where the drive is like 5.5. So, like, worst case, I just, stop a bunch. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Also, when I drove with her and your mom that one time, I just had all of her stuff in the front seat and I just could just hand it to her,
Mhm.
and it was like a little command
Mhm.
center. I
So
think I
it'll
could do
just
it
take you a little bit more prep. So I assume you want to
fine.
leave Thursday then.
Yeah.
Okay. We I could do Wednesday. I think I am prepped enough to do it that soon. If y'all are good for Wednesday.
Hmm.
That works for me.
And then I get a bunch of alone time that weekend to prep for the next session. So
Um, yeah. So right after that session, I will be in Houston for a week. So the week of Valentine's Day, I will be in Houston.
oh, why are you gonna do
So
that? Why would you
You
go to
going to
Houston for
Houston? Why
Valentine's
are
Day?
you
What?
going to Houston? Is there
Mhm.
something going on?
wow, I wonder why. No, I actually am going to be trying to buy a car and doing apartment hunting. And I just intentionally lined that trip up with Valentine's Day so that I
Nice,
could get a 2-for-1.
nice. Um,
I'm excited.
well, good luck with car hunting. From what I hear,
Good luck
that is
using
gonna
that.
be pretty shitty. So,
I know. Like, if I could get around it, I would, but I mean, you can't exactly
yeah,
live in Texas without a car, and we sold mine when I moved to DC. So,
well,
yep.
good luck. Good
So,
luck.
It's
I
a
hope you
good
find something
decision.
useful.
I mean, it was the right decision for the time. It just,
Yeah.
shitty timing right now.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't want it sitting for years, so.
Yeah.
Oh no, it would. Yeah, it was not the time. Yeah.
Um.
So
But yeah, Wednesday works for me.
All right. We'll do Wednesday. Might be a combat session. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Um.
Guys, I have a
Finally,
fireball.
fireball.
So you do have fireball.
Did I mention that yet?
Oh, you have fireball? That's so cool.
Yeah.
Fireball. Um.
I have find steed, and I'm really excited to use it.
Um. Oh yeah. I think you said you think you had that listed as one of the things you wanted to do during downtime. Um. But
Yeah, but then I did everything during downtime, and I was like,
yeah. Well. You know. Excuse me.
I didn't have near so much that they wanted to do. Really, they just wanted to spend time with people and get the letter from their mom.
Okay. Just for explanation's sake, downtime took roughly a month. Henry would have gotten his package definitely in the last week of the month, if not like towards the end of the last week of the month. And also just like how postage works in the world is it's relatively fast to super major cities. Like as in a couple weeks fast. But then if the destination or start of the letter is not a major city, then it takes however long it takes for someone to wander from where it started or to where it ends from or to a major city. So
You've explained. I am aware. But I am as restless for it as Call is restless for it because hey, guess what? I'm not dead is a really big letter to like send somebody.
um
It takes a long time to respond to that, though, to get all your thoughts together and send a coherent letter. So,
but I will have like 4 days alone here where I will have the time to write it. So also I know I'm not gonna get away with like a 4-line letter from your mom who thought you were dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, it will. I'm going to put thought and effort into it. So um,
I do appreciate that. No, I understand why it has not happened. I am just antsy. That is all.
also part of the retcon of it taking a little bit less time to get to Steelwood Forest is I was like, if it took y'all 4 days to cover like this space on the map, and the trip from Storgard to wherever Bennett is from is way longer than that. But I wanted. So by the way, Henry, the opal.
I was gonna ask, Henry would have gone back and looked at it. Like, is there anything there? What's
Why
going
don't you
on?
just go ahead and go into your inventory
My inventory.
and just type in opal. Don't read the full title of the item.
Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Refresh the page.
So for anybody at home, our next session is going to be Wednesday. If any,
Hey.
for anybody still watching. Um,
I don't see it.
um,
How did you spell opal? O-P-A-L?
OPAL.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
It didn't. It's purple. Are you in manage inventory?
Oh, manage inventory. Sorry.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
not
sorry,
already
sorry.
in your inventory.
Sorry, I thought you put it in there. I don't know.
It's purple.
It's purple.
Like the word. The words are purple.
Okay, I found it.
If you want to
That's
tell
just
everybody
happening.
what it does.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was anything. Okay. 2 inches in diameter, which that's big.
Yes, it
That's a
is.
chunk. It always seems to be catching the light in an appealing way. When holding the opal, the holder spell save DC increases by 1 and gets a +1 to spell attacks. Fuck. Once per day, the opal can be used to cast the sending spell. You're killing me. Henry could directly talk to Bennett once a day. Because sending doesn't cover distance. Does it
Sending can
depend
be
on
sent
distance?
anywhere. I Let me look up sending real quick actually.
That's sending. This is why I'm furious that it's not a sorcerer spell.
Um
Sending
Yeah,
is
you can
so
send it
good.
to other planes of existence. But
Yeah,
if
'cause
it is a different plane of existence, there's a 5% chance that it doesn't arrive.
I'm sorry, my brain first went, we could send a message to Nethris.
what's that?
Please.
Shut up, I'm sorry. Sorry, friend's D&D character who is very good at hopping through different planes of existence.
Tried to add the opal to my bag of holding, and the website crapped out and said we rolled a 1 on our something check, and I tried to go back, and it just like freaked out and went to like all the characters, and I don't know.
It's kind of like trying to
Anyway.
put a bag of holding in a bag of holding.
Yeah.
Oh
Nothing
yeah,
good
you
happens.
can't go through like portals. You can't go through portals while holding a bag of holding. Otherwise it breaks the universe.
Yeah, you don't want to put a bag of holding into an extra dimensional space.
Mm.
I'm randomly doing the like click to roll feature on my character sheet right now, and I just rolled a 28 sleight of hand.
You see my potion bottle dice?
Hmm?
So check the game log upper right hand. The upper right hand corner, where it says campaign, and then there's a little like like dialogue box.
Yeah.
And then
All of my
the custom roll. You see rolled with dice of heroism is the little potion bottle.
yeah. Oh, cute.
Yeah.
See that?
That's very cute. Dice of heroism.
I've also got some little dragon eggs, and this month I got fuzzy dice. It's just with my subscription to D&D Beyond.
Nice.
Every couple month, or I guess every month I've gotten a new one. Just rolling shit with your stupid, insane stats. Ugh.
I just really love that. I really love having a stupid +10 to things.
And you have it to 2 things. 29 sleight of hand. That's ridiculous. Roll. Right
It's
now,
disgusting, and I'm so happy about
if you roll a nat 20 on perception or sleight of hand, you literally meet the DC for nearly impossible tasks.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
With that, if y'all want to talk about stuff, that'd be great, but my voice can't handle no more.
Mm.
It's 12:30 here.
I
Yeah.
might check out then.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah.
Good session,
You
guys.
need to go bother your people.
The list art
Yeah.
the list art is so good. I don't know if you're planning on
So-
making a list with an eye art, but if you are, that would be awesome too. So good.
I loved it so much.
Thank you guys.
Like so
It's
much.
talented.
I feel like a 5-year-old bringing home my macaroni art. Can we put this on the fridge? I found some Crayola colored pencils. So yeah. Thank you
I
guys.
had my daughter as my screensaver. I've had my daughter as my screensaver for like 3 years, and it's still
Move over, Addie. God. Okay.
upside down.
Move
trash.
over, Addie. I've got a silly quiet boy upside down on a chair.
Boy.
really quiet way.
Which
Oh
I
my
will
God.
say, next time I take an especially adorable picture of her, it will probably replace the trend. But for now,
I love that.
Um, love it all. It's all great.
I love your circlet, Bronwyn.
Thank you. It is a torque, and it belonged to my dad.
Hmm,
Because my dad was that kind of bitch who wore jewelry.
that track.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye.
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 And thank you to everyone who watched the stream. We had a blast. I normally don't sound like I'm dying. Bye.